So thanks everybody for coming out tonight. It's really great to see a full room. It's fantastic. I'm Anne Todd. I'm a partner here at Michelmores. I'm a commercial lawyer and I deal with all things technology, IP and data related. I'm also a former entrepreneur myself in the telecoms sector, so I have had some experience of the things that the panel will be talking about. We're really delighted to host WiTT, Audrey and our panel guests again this year, and I'm sure it's going to be a really interesting and insightful discussion, and it's always one of my favourite events of the year. For those of you who don't know us, Michelmores is a leading UK law firm. We have over 550 lawyers, offices in London, Bristol, Exeter and Cheltenham, and we've got a real passion for supporting...
You need to hold the microphone.
Oh, okay, can you hear me?
That's better.
Okay, so I'll just say that. For those of you who don't know us, Michelmores is a leading UK law firm. We've got over 550 lawyers with offices in London, Bristol, Exeter and Cheltenham, and we've got a real passion for supporting entrepreneurs. And we put this into action not just through the good legal support that we pride ourselves on, but also through our award-winning angel network, which is called Mainstream, and it operates in the Southwest and in Cheltenham. Many of our mainstream angel investors are former entrepreneurs who are keen to pay it forward by supporting other entrepreneurs, both financially and through other support and guidance. And we're only too aware how difficult it can be for women to access funding. And with this in mind, we host an annual mainstream pitch event just for female-founded businesses. And we also seek to recruit and support female angel investors to promote greater diversity in investment. So if you'd like to know more about what we do at Michelmores and about our mainstream angel network, please do come and speak to me or any of my colleagues. We've got green badges on, so you'll be able to find us. And there's some leaflets to take back with you if you're interested. After the panel have concluded their discussion, we'd like to welcome you all for drinks upstairs in the bar. And there'll be a lot of networking opportunities then. And finally, before I hand over to Audrey, we're not expecting any fire drills this evening, so if the alarm sounds, please calmly leave and follow my colleagues and ensure you to a safe exit.
Okay. Hi everyone, I'm Audrey Mandela. I'm the chair of WiTT, Women in Telecommunications and Technology. There are four of us here from WiTT tonight. Annette Nabavi,
hello everybody.
Helen Koliski, oh Helen's back there, and Yasmin, and I think I've just gone off, Yasmin Majid. Thank you very much to Michelmores for hosting us again. We very much like coming here for this event, and this is the 15th year that WiTT has hosted an event looking at women technology entrepreneurs and hearing their stories. This year, some of you may know, WiTT has a bit of a health tech focus, so our panelists are all founders of health-related technology businesses. This is also the week before Global Entrepreneurship Week. We like to have this event now because it's an excellent time to celebrate women tech entrepreneurs. It's also a time of year when a lot of data comes out about how entrepreneurs are doing generally. And unfortunately, every year when I get up here, I say pretty much the same things. Some of you may have seen the October report from the Women Inequalities Committee, which has not a lot of good things to say about finance, getting finance into women's startups. They noted that in 2024, just 2% of equity investment went into businesses run by female founders, and that is down from 2.5% in 2023. So the numbers are not going in the right direction, definitely. All male teams received 80% of venture capital allocated, and this is despite the fact that female-led businesses deliver 35% higher returns than those led by men. And last year, half of the women who were surveyed by Atomico's State of European Tech Report said that they believe that being a woman hampered their ability to raise finance. The Women Inequalities Commission report also says, and I'm just going to read this out, the Rose Review identified that £250 billion in growth could be achieved if women entrepreneurs were funded to the same level as men. Adjusting for inflation, that figure is now £310 billion. It is increasingly accepted that supporting more women into business is not just a matter of fairness, but is an economic imperative. So trying to get more funding into women-led businesses is not because it would be a nice thing to do. It would actually be much better for the economy. And I think probably everybody in this room knows that. But it would be great if more people knew that, wouldn't it? So to discuss that issue and many others tonight, we have a fantastic panel. To my left, we have Dr. Rebecca Allam, who is co-founder and CEO of PreActiv, Giovanna Forte, CEO of Forte Medical, and Josephine Dorh, founder of FluoretiQ. So I'm going to jump right in, guys. Could you please, and let's just go in this order, tell us why you became entrepreneurs, what your businesses do, and then we'll jump into some of the harder questions.
Yeah, of course. Lovely to see you all and to be here tonight. So my name's Dr. Rebecca Allam. So my background's as a haematologist, along with my co-founder, Dr. Alex Snow, and together we've been working in the NHS for over 25 years. We set up PreActiv because we kept sitting across from patients who were about to undergo major surgery or cancer treatment, who were underprepared, and they ended up then having complications, so things like a heart attack or sepsis, which really impacts their quality of life and long-term health. It also prolongs their hospital stay, adds to the backlog of 1.1 million people awaiting elective surgery at the moment. Prehabilitation's been around for a little bit, so it's essentially the process of optimising a patient before that procedure to reduce the risk of complications by half, hospital days by 2 days. But the problem was the delivery. So most hospitals just provide generic information or nothing, which has minimal benefits. And face-to-face services or telemedicine services really are incredibly expensive. So they're offered to sort of less than 5% of patients. So we use technology to be able to design very individualized, bespoke programs for patients that adapt based on dynamic logic in line with their feedback. And it's significantly cheaper, but also incredibly effective.
Hello, I'm Giovanna Forte with a bit of a cold, sorry. I actually set up my first business when I was 26, when my first daughter was born, because I didn't want to have to work and hand her over to somebody else. So I haven't worked for anyone else for a woefully long time because I'm now ancient. I carried that on. That was an exhibition support services business. It morphed into PR, and I was running an architectural PR business, when my brother, Dr. Vincent Forte, rang me up one day and said, I'm fed up with women shouting at me for having to pee into a very narrow tube when I asked them for a midstream urine sample. And he said, what do I do? And I said, oh, make something. You're always making things when we were children, which he was. He used to set our mother's kitchen on fire with his chemistry says quite a lot. And so he then won an innovation award with what he called the female freedom funnel. And he asked me to attend the award ceremony with him. He was going to talk to all the journalists. And I said, no, you're not. I'm in PR. You don't do that until you've made it. He said, well, how do I do that? And I said, well, the product design people I work for, they do this, 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 and this. And he said, well, will you help me? And I said, yes. How hard can it be, I thought. We now have PZ Midstream, which I thought would sound a little bit better than Female Freedom Funnel. And we have a lot of clinical evidence. We reduce the national average urine contamination rate for women from an average of 20% to 0, at most 2.5%. So we reduce retesting, we reduce a lot of cost, we reduce burden on GPs, on labs. The urine specimen goes straight into the tube that goes into the lab analyzer. There's no decanting. And it's much better for women, hygiene and dignity. I don't know how many women here have had a UTI? And how many have had children? There we are. Well, you're all customers. There we go. There are 600,000 births, live births in the UK every year. That's 4.2 million urines. 4.2 million women peeing on their hands, spreading germs and bacteria around hospitals and GP surgeries. That's not okay. We launched back in 2016 with our first device after 3 iterations. And we were scaling in the US and the UK, where we both have regulatory compliance. And then COVID, the gift that keeps on giving, suspended point of care testing. So we were £1 million investment offer disappeared because we suddenly had no revenue, we had no sales. And that lasted about 18 months. And by the time point of care testing came back, our stock was too short date to sell. So I crowdfunded, because investors weren't interested. Where's your revenue? You've been around too long, you haven't done very much. I crowdfunded to make new stock, and our manufacturing partner went into administration. So now we had no factory either. But we're back. We have manufacturing partner, we have stock, we have early sales, we're back on the NHS supply chain. We're about to sign up with a major sales and distribution business who also wants to invest, because we're obviously investing again, looking for investment again. So we're looking to get back to the States next year and grow and scale and develop PZ First Stream for early stage cancer tests and sexually transmitted infections, and PZ Twin Stream for captures 2 specimens from the same stream for sports dope testing and evidential forensic medicine. So if anything you want to know about I'm your woman. Thank you.
And actually, so is Josephine.
Yes.
So we didn't plan it this way, but
unfortunately, I know a bit too much about we. So I'm Josephine Dorh, CTO and co-founder of FluoretiQ. When we started, so my background is in electrical and electronic engineering, and I always like to make things simple. So when we see a problem, I always think, how can I make this easier and shorter and all of that. So my husband and I, we met at uni. He decided to look into bacteria in water. He asked me to join him. I was like, that's not really fun. No, thank you. But then I had to experience how frustrating it is to be able to diagnose bacteria when somebody is unwell. And that happened in 2017 when we had our first child. I was in the hospital, induction failed, and so she was born. And then, doctors came into the room and everyone was worried about an infection for the baby and myself. Funny thing is, my body is just warm, but because the temperature was high, everybody was worried about me being sick, so as a baby. And so we were put on very strong antibiotics straight away, while waiting for the test to come back. Now, when it comes to the test, the gold standard is culture, which takes about 3 days. So in that 3 days, we went on antibiotics, and 3 days later, they came in and was like, good news and bad news. The good news is you have no infection. The bad news is you need to finish the antibiotics. And I had to look at that little tiny baby who had to, because she was so small, they were giving her injections, and I thought, this is not sustainable. We didn't have to be here. We didn't want to be here. And so that's what motivated us to really push FluoretiQ forward. And what we are developing is the ability to detect bacteria from liquid samples within 15 minutes. And the first application we are looking at is urines. That's where the UTI comes in.
We've spoken before.
So it's about empowering the medical professionals with the right tools so that they can make an adequate decision from the very first time they meet that patient, rather than using their best guess. Now, I cannot blame them because the best guess is sometimes all they have. But, for someone like me, I was thinking, I'm there for 3 days, I could get another infection. And, worse yet, even they don't get the right treatment from the very first start. So that's what has motivated us. And since 2017, we have iterated the idea. So we started in a very dark room, and up to the point where we are now, we have our first prototype, which has been tested to death. A lot of urine. I think I can't even smell urine anymore. And we have published some papers, and we are looking to launch our first product, starting with the animal market, because yes, animals also get UTIs. And because it's less regulated, we can prove there, and then move to the human market later on.
Right. Great. Thank you all. So let's move on to some of the challenges that you faced in starting and growing your businesses. Giovanna, I'm going to start with you because you've already talked about a number of challenges, but one of the issues we could talk about is also how one gets into the NHS and issues once one is somehow integrated into the NHS. So could you start with, are there other issues that you've confronted?
I think getting into the NHS is an issue. They have the health innovation networks that, in my experience, do very little. I don't know if they're naming them here, but you need to shape up. There are a lot of people with the word innovation in their job titles, and most of them don't know how to spell the word. There's repetition across the system, and it's very, very frustrating. Now, the biggest issue we have at the moment is procurement. So we have a PZ midstream that costs £4.50. It's very highly engineered. It's it brings diligence and accuracy and reduced prescribing and everything to, so effectively we're working, like Josephine, to take women off the front line of AMR, which is where we are, whether you like it or not. But they will say, well, look, we've got this little pot that's 20p. We'll use that because it's much cheaper. Now, words like adequate and good enough are not words that women want associated with their urological health or their prenatal health. But that's what we're getting, because procurement cannot join the dots between the upfront costs and the back-end savings. Doesn't matter how many nurses and doctors and GPs want it. That's what we're up against. Now, fortunately, we have a lab director at Public Health England Lab in Birmingham, and he's about to start a 2,000 patient trial. And he intends to show clinical benefit, service benefit, reduced prescribing, because he says that we are giving pregnant women too many antibiotics, and it's not just the woman, it's the baby that's getting it as well. And that will have enormous implications to the gut microbiome, potential for obesity and diabetes later in life. So these are issues that are being completely ignored by the people that have the power to buy. That's the biggest challenge that we have, and it makes me cross.
Clear. Rebecca, what about you?
Yeah, so we're revenue generating and have NHS contracts, which is no mean feat. Yeah. And it has taken a long time. I mean, I've come from a clinical point of view. I was a doctor within the NHS and knew that it would be difficult to sell to the NHS, but it really, they do create quite a lot of barriers. I mean, some with good reason. So, for example, you need, it should always be evidence-based medicine. You need to have clinical trials to back up your product, and that should be a standard before you roll out. The problems then come is that you then prove your innovation in a clinical setting, in a clinical trial, but every hospital, you kind of enter this pilotitis land, where every hospital decides that they want to reprove it in their particular hospital, even though you've already proven it. And there's this sort of period of time whilst you collect real-world health data from several sites, get real-world impact evaluations and health economic analysis before you can really start scaling. And that slows down innovation in the UK. And often UK innovators in health tech are told when investors come along, when are you going to the US? You should be thinking about the US straight away. And as a clinician, I find that so upsetting that patients in the UK do not get these amazing innovations that are coming through and access to them because they're all farmed off to the US where there's better opportunities. And then I think our real frustration is you have templates for all the business cases, you help write them, you have templates for DPIA, information governance, but every hospital is different. So there's this really fragmented procurement system. And that's one thing that the government have talked about and are bringing in, and I really support this, is an innovation passport, so that you prove it in one hospital, you have all of that documentation, and then there isn't another pilot at another hospital, it just gets adopted.
Hallelujah.
Let's see if they do it.
Is that actually going to happen, or is it?
So, that's always the next question, right, isn't it? Yes. I really hope, although I don't agree with how they went about restructuring NHS England, that it was a decision made overnight. Lots of those ICB leads had no idea that was coming. Trying to reduce bureaucracy and getting innovations into trusts quicker and things like an innovation passport. There needed to be a reframing of things. Yeah. So I am in support of that, but maybe not how it was done.
Right. And you pitched to Angel Academy last night, did you not?
Yes, I did.
Did anybody ask you about when you're going to be in the US?
Funny enough, they didn't actually, but I have been asked that today already.
Oh, really?
And not from this, from an earlier event. It's always, when are you going to the US?
Right. Okay. And Josephine, how about you? Challenges?
For us, it's been credibility, because what we are saying we can do, in 15 minutes, come on. Everybody, it takes, 3 days to culture the bacteria? So how can you actually do that in 15 minutes? So that's been the challenge from the very beginning, and having to prove ourselves over and over again. And also people doubting because of our background, because, you're two engineers. What are you doing with microbiology? not knowing that it's about the team you surround yourself with, because, even if I was a microbiologist, I still need a team around me to build that. So our biggest challenge to date is still credibility, having to prove ourselves over and over again, which is worked out to our own advantage, but it has been credibility.
Okay. Well, let's talk about some of the decisions that you've had to make in building your businesses. There are always a lot of different ways that you can create your businesses, bring on teams, etc. So why don't we talk about best and worst decisions that you've made? And Josephine, why don't I go back to you?
Okay, so the first best one was starting the business with my husband, even though many people disagree. Because we get asked the question, how do you manage, home and business? But that has been really great because I get to do this journey with somebody who understands. And, even the fact that I'm here tonight meant that he's home with the kids, which that's very helpful. And the other really decision that really helped us was from the very beginning, we made sure we defined this business as a journey. And the way we did that was that even though we are husband and wife, we are still colleagues. Yeah. And as we go on this journey, we need to understand that when it comes to the business, we need to think about the business needs first, rather than what we need. So if, for example, if one of us is, we say that people don't believe us, if one of us is not performing well, or we have another talent that will do well better than us, we should be able to step back so that person comes on to take the business forward.
Yeah. And do you want to talk about a worst decision?
The one that comes to mind is assuming that anybody you bring into your business is going to think like you. Because when we started Bright Eye, we were ready to take this to the moon, and we started building a team, and immediately everybody we brought on, so the new skills, because we thought we are engineers, we brought on a chemist or microbiology, and so we brought them straight to the table, but I don't think they were ready for that, because these were people who were looking for jobs rather than to build a business. So we had to learn very quickly that they just want jobs, which is not a problem because they've got different priorities. And so if I'm going to work till midnight without expecting a salary increase, I cannot expect everybody I bring onto the team to work the same way.
Yeah, very true, very true. And my husband and I started a business together, and it worked out okay, so so with luck that'll be the case for you too.
Thank you.
Giovanna, best and worst decisions?
I think the best decision has been to do what I'm doing, despite the fact I knew absolutely nothing about the clinical environment when I started. But I have that rather belligerent attitude of, well, you can do anything if you really, really want to. So that's what I do. So that was good. And also getting so stuck into the subject matter that I could then see the need for the first stream for early stage cancers and twin stream for sports dope testing, because no business just stops there. Yeah. And I also got fed up with investors saying, oh, you're a one-trick pony, you've only got one product. No, we don't. We have a suite of products, but we need the money to develop them. On which note, I think the worst decisions I've ever made is never to raise enough money at each round that we've done. Ever. I should have raised double every time. But then our very first investment advisors, who practically went bust, sorry, I didn't mean to smile. They told us 150,000 would get us to market. They knew nothing about the market sector either. So I wasn't entirely to blame, but I should have learned faster than I did. So that's been the downside of my decision making.
Okay. And Rebecca?
So I think best decisions was moving into doing health tech. Like, part of why I moved away from medicine was to make a wider impact and a bigger change to patients. So I love getting the patient feedback that we've really made a difference to their lives. That still fills me with so much joy. Also, we've kind of adopted a culture. So similarly, I have 3 children. I've got a 10-month-old, a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old, and my co-founder is also my husband. It's a running theme. And it was really fantastic stepping away and being able to create an environment that supported women. We have at least 50% female representation in our company. We've put in flexibility so that you can actually get to the Harvest Festival for your kids. And that actually is stuff that I would miss all the time. So that's been really important. And then from a business, sorry, there's a bit of a list. From a business point of view, I would just throw this one. One of the really, I guess, smarter decisions that we've made, we recognise that there's so many different health tech out there now. Hospitals don't want multiple different pieces of tech. It's so annoying to have lots of different logins and that they're not interoperable, they don't integrate with each other. So we started partnering with bigger health tech companies, so things like Doctor, My Pre-Op, Vital Hub, to build an end-to-end perioperative care pathway. So from the moment you're referred for your operation, you get all of your messagings around your appointments, your education, you get digital consent, you get your digital preoperative assessment clinic. Then you go into your prehabilitation, which then transfers into your rehabilitation. We collect all of the PROMs, so like patient-reported outcome measures, and they've got patient-initiated follow-up at the end, all in one beautiful pathway. And that's been really helpful with getting our name out there. Obviously, that shortens sales cycles. We can subcontract with them. Gets around the fragmented procurement system, so that's been very helpful. And then worst decision. I would say there's no worst decisions. You learn from every decision, even if it's not definitely panned out the best. And one of the things that was a steep learning curve for us in the very first couple of contracts and hospitals we were talking to was not involving every single person from the beginning. People don't like being innovated to. And unfortunately in the NHS, everyone can say no. So if you don't have the whole team, all of the clinical team, finance, IG, the tech team all on board, you'll find at some point someone will say, and it can be really late down the line, no. And that's it. It all falls apart. It's happened over and over again with other companies, NIA fellows, Digital Health London fellows that I've been working with. Everyone has this horror story. And I wish we'd learnt that earlier. And now it's okay. Now we know.
Yes. Now I want to move on to advice, because it seems like there's a whole industry out there that wants to give advice to entrepreneurs, especially women entrepreneurs. Most of them would prefer to give you advice than money, in my experience. And we have had a number of entrepreneurs who have written columns about that. But Giovanna, you were saying you were given very bad advice from your financial advisors who said 150K will get you to market. God, how could they possibly think that? But anyway, is that the worst piece of advice you've had, or is there more that's worse?
I think, consultants tend to be the bane of my life, They're the people who ask to borrow your watch so they can tell you the time and then give you your watch back. That's the analogy of a consultant. And I'm sorry if there are consultants in the room, but I find they want a lot of money and don't give you much back. And unless if someone wants to give you advice, ask them if they've done this before. Do they know your landscape and your industry? Do they understand the sector? And if they say no, well, don't listen to them. I could give myself better advice than most people who give me advice. And there's mainly men that will come and give me advice that I really don't need. Oh, have you thought about this? Have you got your regulatory compliance done? Well, what do you think? Go to the States. Yes, we've been to the States. We've been successful in the States. We have a Medicaid reimbursement code. We have it, they will tell you things without you even asking. Sorry, men. But that does tend to happen. Women will qualify any advice they give you before they give it because they're so used to this happening to them as well.
And what about good advice? What's the best advice you've been given? I mean, may not have been given any.
Well, it's probably to do with investment. Raise more than you think you need.
Okay.
It'll be that one.
Josephine?
Where do I start? Okay. Worst advice? This was terrible, but when we went to raise some money, I was pregnant, heavily pregnant, and somebody advised us that the question was, what happens when you divorce? Yes. I thought we could not believe that we're hearing that. That was as a legitimate question, and basically saying maybe I stay home and look after the children, and then my husband carries on. Obviously, he said, you can take your money with you. No, thank you, because that was terrible advice. Best advice was somebody telling us that as an entrepreneur, the journey is very lonely. Yeah. Very, very lonely. And you will get people who will come they will realize that you are lonely and they'll try to prey on that. So when you meet people, just be aware that not everybody that comes to you is not looking to help you. It's just they can see that you're a struggling entrepreneur and they see the opportunity there and they'll ask for equity or something like that. And another thing which we were told very early on is that if you get somebody who says they're passionate about your business and they only ask for cash, run. Because it means they'll take the money and nothing else will be done. But if they're really passionate about it, then they should be looking at equity. Not that they don't get paid at all. You find ways, obviously, when you raise funding, they should be able to get paid. But if the first conversation is, give me money, and then we can see what happens after that, then they're probably not going to be invested in it, or they don't think you're going to last long enough.
Yeah.
Yes, can I add to that?
Yeah.
We when we were looking for investment, when no one would invest in us because we had no revenue, etc. I was introduced to an investment manager who said, I want 3,995, I'll get you £1 million investment. It's already lined up, la-di-la-di-la. Long story short, he didn't get the investment. We didn't get the money back, which was in the contract. We then found that he'd done the same thing to 60 other companies. He'd also screwed investors by taking their money and keeping it. We've had him wound up. The Crown Prosecution Service are ready to arrest him, and he's in big trouble. But some of my investors said, just walk away, it's only £4,000, it doesn't matter. And once I'd found out he'd been doing this serially, I thought, no, this is not okay. He's been arrested once, he's on bail, he's going to get arrested again. But he's also taken up 4 fraudulent bounce-back loans, so one of the big banks is after him. So, don't put up with that shit is my message. Yeah.
That's excellent. And Rebecca.
That's totally distracted me. That's so good. I love that. So one of the worst pieces of advice we had was to very early on, and I get obviously you're trying to drive revenue generation, but in health tech, reputation is really important, and using me and Alec as the sales people at the front with all of our leads and connections has been the kind of open the market. And we were advised by someone who doesn't operate in health tech very early on to employ like £100,000 a year sales people. And it would have rinsed our runway. And, when you're very early on and there's people who might have been successful in their area telling you this, you're like, oh, gosh, should we do that? But luckily we didn't. We had other advice from people within the sector who still say, no one will sell your health tech as good as the founders. So what can you do to offload all your other jobs as a CEO? So many jobs. You need to surround yourself with an amazing team who you can hand those jobs to. So you just keep going with BD and obviously dip into the other things. So that was worst and very good advice. And then the other really good advice that we had was there is a lot of help out there if you want to step on this journey. So we had an amazing experience on Digital Health London Accelerator with lead generations which have turned into contracts. We found Dr. John Whittle, who's like one of the thought leaders in prehab. He's become a clinical advisor on our board. Just so many amazing things. They helped us do our carbon reduction plans, all these extra things that we didn't really know about. We're on G-Cloud procurement framework, all these extra things that you need in place to be able to sell successfully to the NHS. And then from that, we did the NHS Innovation Accelerator, which is also very similar and really helps with that spread and adoption. They are then your loudest sort of market, people market you, which has been fantastic.
Great. Before I move on to other questions, I think I'd like to open it up to anybody in the room who might have a question, and maybe Annette, you can help with the microphone if anybody does have a question. Anybody out there? Over here, Jaden? Have a microphone. Yeah.
Sounds like it's working. So this question's for anyone to answer. In that moment of, I don't really know what else to call it, but like the moment of no return, where did you draw your strength or courage from to make that step of saying, let's go all in on this, like this is our path forward?
Who'd like to start?
I think with all the various hurdles that we've had, many people have told me to walk away. You know, you've got no money, you're broke, it's really difficult, COVID, la la la. But I think the way I take any big decision is to imagine I'm on my deathbed and look back and think, was I really pleased I gave that up? And my answer would be no, so I carry on.
For me, it's because when we started, I was really motivated about what I do. And so it's about, if I enjoy it, I'll do it. And also just understanding, because when we started it, we were fresh out of uni. So my husband had just finished his PhD. I've been working for like 2 years. So we were crazy enough at that point, I guess. And we didn't have many liabilities then. And so we thought, you know, in terms of job security, you'll not get that anywhere. Because even with the bigger companies, they will downsize and they'll still let you go. So we might as well do what we enjoy, even if it means going broke.
So I've definitely had two rather large points where I was like, wow, I'm really going to do this. One was stepping away from my medical career that I'd worked so hard to get to. I also stepped away just before I was a consultant. So that was a really big decision. And the second was not having a maternity leave with my youngest daughter. So I gave my time up with my daughter. I was back at work at day 6. Not that I'm saying this is a recommendation, but I could only do that if it was something I was really passionate about. And then so my real driving force, one, make a difference to all these patients, but is to be a role model for my 2 girls, that you can smash those glass ceilings. You can do the same as your dad. If you have a dream, you go and chase it. And that is what I hope that they will reflect upon.
Yeah. Pleasure. One here.
Hi, my name is Rebecca. Thank you. It's all really inspirational. As you look forward, what is the biggest challenge you're looking to smash, approach, and what are you excited about?
Biggest challenge is for us will be to get this product wherever it's needed. And what I'm excited about is that one day I walk into GP's office, an ambulance, whatever it is, and see our product being used to death. It's been used so much, the buttons have been wiped out, because then that's going to be a moment that I feel like we've really made a change.
In the short term, I want to get back to the 250,000 PZ midstreams we were selling when COVID hit, and I want to smash that. And I want to take it back to the States, and I want to go global with licensing agreements. But when we've got some investment, I want to put somebody else in charge of that. And I want to get the new products going, because I'm the getting things going person. So I can't wait to get my hands on early stage cancers and sports date testing.
So I would say ours, we're in that commercialisation with NHS, moving past the pilotitis stage. So my real goal is to be the leading prehabilitation provider in the NHS and private healthcare in the UK. And then to start looking, so prehabilitation is now in the ESPN European guidance is now filtering through America to start that globalisation to make real impact.
Great. I think we had a question. There's one back there.
Seems to be questions all over the place.
Yeah, well, I think we start over here. Yep.
Hi, and thank you. It was really inspirational. I have a question for everyone, and especially for Josephine, because you kept referring, you were not a microbiologist, and I think please to surround yourself with the right individuals, and especially when you're starting early on in your entrepreneurship journey. How do you find those right people? Because I think nowadays the trend is the right people want to go to the big jobs, big salaries, big companies. There are very less resources or talent pool wanting to take bets on just early starters who don't even have a team. So how did you guys go about those challenges in the early stages, and how did you overcome it?
Do you want to start, Josephine?
Yes, I can start. So for us, we collaborate a lot. In fact, I hardly turn down any collaboration offer. So you come to me, I look at your idea of like, yes, I say yes, then think about how we collaborate later. And so from the beginning, we started by collaborating with top professors in chemistry and microbiology. And we actually took some of their work to help develop this product. And once we've proven the core idea, we literally went into their groups, PhD groups, and just who are the most prominent students coming out? Can we interview them? You know, can we bring them on board? And so that's how we started. But now looking back, what we do now, obviously, because these people are not there anymore, when we're growing the team, we sort of set out what do we need for our products, then put the spec out there to find the right person. And we are not afraid to just search until we find the right person, because sometimes you feel so much pressure to bring somebody in that you lower your standards. And what we've learned is that we shouldn't lower our standards, because the product will be held to a certain, quality and standard as well. So even if it means it takes a bit of time to look for it, I'll say just look for it. And if you're struggling, universities they have talents. You've got these professors that have got knowledge way beyond you can think of, and they don't want to start a company, but they'll be willing to collaborate and share their knowledge as long as you bring funding, so grants and all of that, and they'll work with you. So that's one of the things that we did.
Rebecca, what about you?
So I think there's two things there. There's one around team, which I'll come into in a second, but there's one also about, I know I'm a clinician by background, but there are plenty of companies that are on the NIA and Digital Health London that don't have a clinical background. So I wouldn't make that hold you back. But what I would say they've done very successfully is find clinical champions. So they make an amazing product, but then they've got these really good relationships with certain consultants across the UK who will shout about their product, and that gives you the kind of like way in. With team, yes, there's always going to be some people who want to go to the big companies, security, all of the bigger pays, better, company extras, things like that. But what I've found is there are amazing people that don't want that. What they don't want to be is like the small cog in a big sort of corporation. They don't want to be in jobs that they're not making a big difference to people's lives. I would say everyone who's joined our company, and your team literally makes or breaks you, is that they all wanted to make a difference. They're all sick of doing jobs that didn't make a big change, especially kind of like from the tech side. So it's finding those golden people that will go all in, whether they come rain or shine, and are happy to forfeit their salaries for like a few weeks if things are going rough, and then you repay them with options. There's other ways to kind of incentivize staff, and then they're properly bought into your company. You're all together in that journey.
Well, unlike my counterparts here, I have no clinical qualifications. In fact, I have no qualifications at all. I qualified as a very highly trained PA back in 1982. And my secretarial duties teacher at the time said to me, "You're not here to learn how to be secretaries, you're here to learn how to be the sorts of women without whom businesses fold." And that's who I am. And the way that I've built the business, I have grown the business, is to acknowledge what I don't know, to learn a lot, and to create a solar system of people who are very good at what they do, who I can bring in as and when I need them. Because until we've got money to employ a team, I won't employ the team, because we need to have a low burn. And you can get much better people. You can pick and choose who the right people are to help, whether it's a clinical trial, or it's regulatory, or it's sales, or it's export, or it's IP. Having one set of people in your company is not going to satisfy all of that to the very best standard that you're going to need to grow.
Great. So there's a question at the back. I think it's Helen, but I can't see you. No.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
You can hear me. Okay, question to all three. When in your minds have you done it? When can you open a bottle of champagne, have something like that? You can't do it.
Actually, that
of champagne.
Careful.
I don't drink, but I'll say I agree every day, because this journey, you need to celebrate every milestone. If not, it gets very hard. If you think about just the endpoint, which, as was asked earlier, is where it's been used to death. We are 8 years in, it's not there yet. And there are many moments that you could just feel very, very discouraged. So every milestone you make, you need to celebrate that. For me, even when our first prototype, which was held by a piece of tape, literally was going to fall apart, and we were able to run it end to end with urine, I celebrated that. Like, nobody could understand why I was so happy. I was like, this thing can barely work. I was like, you don't understand, it works. So it's celebrating, I would say, every milestone, break it down, even the little ones, which is you got somebody new, you made it through payday. I think those milestones to be celebrated.
Yes, I agree. Every sale, every successful trial or evaluation, every testimonial you get from a clinician or a patient. So that's short to medium term, all of that. And in the next 4 years, I want to exit. I'm 62, I want to retire.
So, yeah, agree. I think that is something that I fail at, is not celebrating those wins and always being like, right, we're on to the next thing. And that's something that Alec is very good at reining me in, to be like, no, we have to celebrate this, because I would say it's a roller coaster. There are some days that you're like, we are winning at this. We're doing so well. We've won a grant. We've won an award. This is great. We've got a contract in. And then the next day, something else can fall on your lap, and you're like, no, we're running out of money. Our burn rate's like too high. What are we going to do about this medical device regulation that we're trying to get for this particular piece? Or, there'll be another like catastrophic problem that feels catastrophic, but it's not. There's always can be solved. So really, taking those times to be like, we've done good, and pat your team on the back as well, not just you, like, you as co-founders, I mean, but it's always like a team effort. And then I agree, I think the final, like, I can actually take a breath, is when we exit. We're like, we did do it.
That's what it's going to be like, but I can tell you.
Oh, no. Okay.
Oh, no, then you'll become angel investors.
We'll be like,
tormented by your investees. Okay, I think that's it for the audience questions for now, so we stay in time. But yes, everyone will be here later, so please ask them the questions over drinks. So I'm going to ask the last question, and then we will move upstairs. We talked about good and bad advice earlier, but what advice would you give to others who are considering the entrepreneurial journey? Rebecca, can I start with you?
Yeah, of course. So I think if it's specifically in health tech, I would say that I've seen time and time again where it is a hard nut to crack. But if you crack it, it's very sticky and it can expand rapidly. And the things to help you on your journey is knowing the ROIs. So I would love to say that hospitals' main concern is patients' welfare. And clinicians, that's true, that is true. But actually, when it gets further up, the bottom line is, can you make in-year cash savings? Is there, so it can't just be like prolonged over years, it needs to be in that year, cost savings, cash releasing benefits. And if you're not collecting that ROI data from day one, you're in trouble if you can't prove those. So that would be my top piece of advice, having a guideline to back you up, because it has to be an absolutely essential part of the NHS. They will not invest, unfortunately, in nice to haves, even if it makes a better experience for the patient. You're going to have a really uphill struggle. And getting on a procurement framework and your medical regulations up together, otherwise you're stuck.
Yes, I echo that. Evidence, cost benefit, evidence, cost benefit, evidence, cost benefit, then patient experience. But if you didn't have the patient experience, you wouldn't have done it in the first place, because our innovation was born for the patient experience. So that's, and more generally, approaching anything, give yourself permission to succeed. That's all you need to do.
Josephine.
What I would add is just remembering that it's a journey, and with that journey, I like to think of it like a race. You need to endure, and so it's not about just doing 1 minute and you finish. It might take longer. For some people it's shorter, others it's much longer. But remember that it's just about enduring and enjoy the process as well. Because one of the things which, when you start, you think, I will just put my head down, forgo everything, time with friends, time with family, put family aside and just get this done. And what you might find is that it's not finishing. And you put everything else aside and it's just not finishing. But then when you realize that this is a journey that you take everything along, it will be much more enjoyable.
Can I add one
Yeah.
last thing as well? I would say, just adding on, allow yourself to succeed, but it's also okay to fail. As you just learn and adapt, as long as
Yeah,
you can
there's no
pivot
such thing
from
as
it.
failure. You learn from absolutely
No.
everything.
And
Yeah.
it's that tenacity. Tenacity, I think that's probably the secret ingredients to keeping going.
Fortitude.
Is that tenacity to keep going even when you think, oh gosh, this is, there's been times I'm like, is this actually going to work? And then suddenly it all goes through again. And you're like, oh no, we're going. We can see the light now. It's really going now. So that kind of like not giving up and being, it's okay if it doesn't go completely right straight away.
Great. Well, I'd like to thank our panel, and I hope you'll join me in thanking them.